Do not leave your fantasy drafts without these 5 sleepers in 2023. Do me a favor, go ahead and drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like fantasy football. And I want you to comment down below before you hear any of mine, who your favorite sleepers are this year. Hey, do you want an advantage on your leagues, whether it's best ball, redraft, superflex, whatever the case may be? Then go ahead and use our code LAND when signing up to Flock Fantasy. You're going to get articles, community articles, expert articles, rankings for all formats, and you're going to get a personalized DM to us for advice if you choose that Mother Flocker tier. So pin comment, check it out, and go ahead and sign up. Okay, 5 sleepers. Please let me know if you want me to do a part 2 of this video, because I have a lot more sleepers I can bring. I just wanted to limit it to 5 for now, for here and today. But I gave myself a challenge. All players have an ADP of on underdog of 100 plus, okay? So we're diving deep here, 100 plus at least on their underdog ADP. That means that all these guys are available in the middle of round 9 onwards, probably round 10 onwards. Okay, the first sleeper I want to bring to you guys today is a Los Angeles Ram. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Van Jefferson seems to be like a very good value in fantasy drafts this year. Also Puka Nacua, in case any of you guys know out there in the Dynasty community, I love me some Puka Nacua. But Van Jefferson right now on underdog is the wide receiver 64. He's my wide receiver 61. And his ADP overall is 142. You're getting this guy super, super late. But Van Jefferson is unquestionably the wide receiver 2 on this team. Let's look at this depth chart, right? Allen Robinson is no longer on the team. He got shipped out to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Kupp is your starting slot wide receiver, and then Van Jefferson is going to start on the outside for you over Ben Skoranek. He is 6'1", 200 pounds. So in 2 wide receiver sets, you're going to see Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson. I know the Rams are easy to bash right now, but it's the same Matt Stafford and Sean McVay combo that just won the Super Bowl about a year and a half ago. And we need to look at what Van Jefferson did when he got back from injury last year. He dealt with injuries from week 1 to 9, but from week 10 onwards, how was he? Like, was he okay? Was he good? Let's look at his averages per game. He averaged 4.3 targets per game, 2.7 receptions, over 41 yards, 8.8 fantasy points per game, and he finished as a wide receiver 40 in that time span. You might be saying, wait a second, none of that sounds good. Like, why are you saying this? Well, keep in mind that Van Jefferson only got to play 1 game with Matthew Stafford from week 10 onwards, which was week 11. That's because Matthew Stafford was injured. So the Rams were going through quarterbacks, just consistently. It was just a revolving door. But now Matthew Stafford is finally healthy. Last year he dealt with the elbow injury. Now he is healthy. And last year he still had 33.7 pass attempts per game, which was top 10 amongst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So the last time Matthew Stafford was fully healthy, he led this team to being top 10 in pass attempts per game and top 5 in offensive points per game. Is this a sexy pick, Van Jefferson? No. But there's a legitimate shot that he is a starting wide receiver for an offense that's going to be better than people realize. He has a chance to be a top 35 wide receiver, and he's being drafted in the late 60s. I mean, it's a no-brainer to go ahead and draft you some Van Jefferson, no matter what format you're in. And keep an eye on Puka Nacua, who is currently wide receiver 93 in ADP as well. So he's a big buy as well. Okay, the second sleeper I'm going to bring to you guys is a running back out of San Francisco. Yeah, it's not Christian McCaffrey. A deep sleeper here, Elijah Mitchell. Currently underdogs RB41. He's my RB44, so I'm a little bit lower, but I still love the range. By the way, if you haven't played underdog yet, maybe you want to draft with us. We go live all the time and do drafts. Go ahead and use our code LAND when signing up to get 100% of your deposit matched. So if you deposit $60, you get $60, right? And then let us know, DM us so we can draft with you. But currently on underdog, he's the 124th player going off the board. This is one of the best handcuffs in all of fantasy football, unquestionably. Mitchell is the definition of a must-start fill-in handcuff. If anything were to happen to CMC, Mitchell will be top 20 in everyone's rankings on a weekly basis. After all, we all know that San Francisco has a tendency for its running back room to be injured, and CMC has a history of missing games with those same kind of injuries. Look, despite being healthy for the entire season last year, CMC has missed 25 games in the past 3 years. That's 50% of his games. And look, I am in no way hoping that Christian McCaffrey gets injured. What I'm saying is there's a history of it happening, not only with him, but also this team. And if he goes down, then we will see Mitchell have incredible value. And Mitchell already has value with CMC in the lineup. CMC was traded to the Niners before week 7 versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And in that time span, week 7 onwards, Mitchell played 4 games with Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. So why don't we look at those 4 games? Mitchell had 39 attempts, 238 yards and 2 touchdowns on 6.1 yards per attempt. Now, if you extrapolate those 4 games to a 17-game season, we can see that Mitchell was on pace, keyword there, on pace to have over 1,000 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. Without even adding any sort of receiving work, Mitchell would have been the RB31 if you put up those type of numbers last year, And if you look at Mitchell's per game averages with CMC, he's averaging almost 10 carries, almost 60 rushing yards, and half a touchdown per game. Believe it or not, CMC is actually heavily impacted by Elijah Mitchell's presence. We've heard Kyle Shanahan say before that Elijah Mitchell will be involved, and yeah, he was very involved when he was healthy. Let's look at CMC without and with Elijah Mitchell in 2022. Keep in mind, this does not include the game versus Kansas City where CMC only saw 28% of the snaps, okay? Because that would be unfair. But without Elijah Mitchell, we have CMC seeing 9 more touches. Without Elijah Mitchell, we have CMC seeing almost 8 more carries. We see him having almost 50 more yards, actually more than 50, 60, 70 more yards almost. And fantasy points, we see him having 13 more fantasy points per game without Elijah Mitchell. Why am I showing you this? To tell you that Mitchell is an important part of this game plan. He just wasn't healthy except for those 4 games. Kyle Shanahan, again, he doesn't care about fantasy. He's told us before that Mitchell will be an important part of this rushing attack. So don't be surprised when Mitchell is here in 2023. Incredible handcuff, check. We got that. Potential standalone value, check. I mean, cheap at ADP. This checks all the boxes for a deep sleeper in fantasy this year. Okay, my third sleeper is a Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, and it's the cheapest of the big 3 right now. That is Odell Beckham Jr. Underdog has him as a wide receiver 53. He's my wide receiver 48, and he's currently going as 113th player off the board. Let me ask you guys, who in the hell knows who the wide receiver 1 on this team is? I'm not talking Mark Andrews. The wide receiver 1 on this team. Who knows? And who can tell me why? Because I don't think anyone really knows who the number 1 will be, but everyone is thinking it's not OBJ because OBJ is way down in ADP compared to these other guys. Bateman and Flowers are back-to-back at wide receiver 45 and 46. Meanwhile, OBJ is a wide receiver 53. There are 24 picks in ADP between Bateman and OBJ, meaning 2 rounds in a 12-man league difference between those guys. So don't get me wrong, I love Bateman. I love Zay Flowers. He was one of my favorite prospects this year. But OBJ isn't just going to be there to be a locker room presence. Like, they paid this man. He is here to play. They paid him $15 million when no one else would because Lamar Jackson wanted to play with him. Like, he's not going to be irrelevant. And what did he do the last time he was healthy? Look, we all know that he's a generational talent. But in 2021, he had a really good back half of the season when he was picked up by the LA Rams in week 12. The last time he was a startable fantasy asset for you with no injuries. Again, 2021 OBJ weeks 12 to 18, he averaged 6.4 targets, 3.5 receptions, 41 yards. He almost averaged a touchdown a game. He was a wide receiver 39 in points per game with 12, and he finished as a wide receiver 22 in that time span. Okay, so obviously the 2021 Rams were a great offense. So do I anticipate OBJ being the wide receiver 22? No, that's not what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying is that the value is very good compared to the price. And the offense identity has changed in Baltimore. Under Greg Roman, the old offensive coordinator, this is one of the league's highest volume rush offenses for years, but he's gone, and now they brought in Todd Monken out of Georgia, and all indications point towards them being a more pass-heavy team. Here's some quotes from Lamar Jackson himself. He says, "Running can only take you so far in this league." This was in an interview. He says, "I feel like with this new era of teams and offenses in the league, I feel like we need that to pass the ball more." And then he said, "I want to throw for like 6,000 yards with the weapons that we have." So all signs point towards this being a much more pass-friendly team than it has ever been. And while OBJ has a vast injury history, outside of Mark Andrews, he's easily the most established wide receiver receiving threat in this offense, unquestionably. So to assume that he will be the fourth option, the fourth weapon in this offense, in my opinion, is going to be a mistake. And I think he's going to end up being a really good value in fantasy drafts. Okay, the fourth player rather that I think you guys should be drafting, that's a very good sleeper, is a tight end. And I'm bringing you a Houston Texan. I'm sorry, I know it's a sin, but here I am bringing you a Texan for fantasy football. Let's talk about Dalton Schultz. Currently on Underdog, the tight end 14. He is my tight end 12. He's going as the 139th player off the board in Underdog drafts. And I have a hot take at the end of this take. So let me know what you guys think about that hot take when I get to it. But look, with Dalton, firstly, we know that he can put up big numbers at the tight end spot. And I completely understand that playing with Dak Prescott in Dallas versus playing with CJ Stroud, a rookie in Houston, is very different. But the point is, we don't have to sit here and ask the question, is it within the realm of possibilities that we could see Dalton Schultz put up big tight end numbers? He's already proven that he can. Let's look at the last 3 years. He was a tight end 11, the tight end 3, and the tight end 10. And on a per game basis, he was really good as well in 2021. So we know he can be very effective for a team in the receiving game. What team is he on? Well, this offense, outside of Robert Woods, there's no established receiving threats whatsoever. Okay, so let's look at it. If we look at the Texan receiving options and their career highs, Robert Woods, career high of 90 receptions on 138 targets. Now, Robert Woods is not the same player. He, coming off the ACL at the age of 31, I think it's safe to say that he's probably peaked. But then you see Dalton Schultz, a career high of 78 receptions and 104 targets. No one else on this team is anywhere close to that kind of production in their entire career. And obviously you got the 3 rookies who are wild cards on this team as well at the bottom there. But Dalton Schultz, in his prime at the age of 26, provided a safety blanket for Dak Prescott for years. Now he can do the same thing for CJ Stroud. And look at the players who are going around Dalton Schultz in ADP. He is so cheap right now. You got Mingo, Tank Bigsby, Adam Thielen, Rashee Rice, Jalen Warren. All of these guys you could take and maybe they turn into something, or you get a reliable starting tight end at that point as well with upside. He's ranked outside the top 12 at the tight end position, but has a clear path to being top 12. And my hot take is this: Dalton Schultz will be one of 4 tight ends to lead their team in receiving. The others are Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, and Dalton Schultz. Put it on the board and let's see if it happens. All right, my last sleeper is Samaje Perine. He is the Underdog RB35. He's my RB34. He's currently going as the 105th player off the board. I've talked about Perine a lot on both of our channels, but I still think he is one of my favorite sleepers. Keep in mind, this was one of Sean Payton's first ever moves as the coach / GM, right? He's making the moves now in Denver. He has all freedom that he wants. And I thought that this team would draft a running back. They decided not to. Instead, they brought in Samaje Perine to be the starter while Javonte is healing. And if you look at the contract, it makes sense, right? He's making more than Alexander Mattison, who's the starter in Minnesota. He's making more than Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, more than Devin Singletary. And we have seen Sean Payton use running back by committees in the past. So even if Javonte is healthy, Perine will be involved. But that's the question. When will Javonte be healthy? I'm betting that it will not be week 1. Okay, I keep seeing mixed reviews. People saying he'll be ready week 1. Other people saying I don't know if he'll even play before half the season. Like, it's very, very mixed reviews at the moment. And the only recent example we have of a running back with a similar injury is J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins last year, we were told the same thing. He'll be ready week 1, draft him with confidence. He'll be the guy. You know, he ended up missing 9 games. And I'm not suggesting that the same fate awaits Javonte Williams. What I am saying is that we have no idea when Javonte is healthy. And Samaje will be unquestionably the starting running back for this team until that's the case. And even when Javonte comes back, they might work him in, so you'll still have a really valuable asset. But look, Javonte will miss time, most likely, and Samaje will unquestionably be the starter. Look at what the GM George Patton said about Samaje Perine. He said, quote, "He can be a starter. He's good on 1st and 2nd down. He's good on 3rd down. He has great hands. He's solid in protection, and we think he can be the starter for this team." And lastly, Samaje had a lot of success in fantasy being the starter for a team last year. From weeks 11 to 13, Samaje Perine was filling in for Joe Mixon. In that time span, he was the RB2 overall, and in points per game, he scored 23.6 points per game. He was also the RB2 in points per game. So if Javonte misses time, you have a top 24 starter for however long that lasts. And in redraft leagues specifically, it's not as good in best ball because at some point you assume Javonte will be back. But in redraft leagues, if you get a starting running back for the first, let's say 5, 6, 7 weeks, and you get him at the 105th pick in your draft, you're absolutely going to be loving that. Even if Javonte comes back and takes the job, he just helped you win extra couple games because you had a starter so late in your draft. So those are 5 sleepers that I am drafting. I would suggest you guys to draft as well. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, what you like, what you dislike. I had to reach in my bag really deep. Now, I'm not saying all these guys are going to be superstars or any of them will, but I'm saying at their cost, I really like their upside or what they could do. So do me a favor, drop a like to show some love, and we'll see you in the next one. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh,
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.